Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. While we wait for the audience to tune in the next couple of minutes, let me share with you quickly how this webinar is going to be structured. First, we'll make a round of introductions with our amazing guests that we have today. Second, I will explain in a very high level what is AI in general and what are the three most important things you should know about AI today. And third, we'll go into discussions with our guests about what is just hype and what is really worth it around AI. We're also going to talk about the big changes in fashion with artificial intelligence and what exciting opportunities AI brings to fashion and what is the experience of our guests in using AI in their work for the fashion industry. And at the end, we're going to wrap up around tips for picking the right AI solutions. We're going to discover what to consider for you when integrating AI in your fashion business. Okay, so I think we're now 2 minutes ahead. I hope everyone from the audience is almost there and tuned in. So this webinar will be organized as a discussion. So if you have any questions in the meanwhile, please post them in the comment sections, and our amazing moderator Maya, she's behind the scenes, will ping us to answer. Okay, so I think we can kick off. Let me start by first introducing myself. So hi everyone, I'm Svetlana. I'm the founder and CEO of Pixyle.ai. I have a technical background. I did a PhD in artificial intelligence and computer vision at the University of Amsterdam. And after my PhD, I founded Pixyle, mostly as an intersection between my love and experience in artificial intelligence and, of course, my passion for fashion. I'm also a passionate online shopper myself. So briefly about Pixyle, what is Pixyle.ai? It's an AI platform for solving the pain point of brands, retailers, and marketplaces of having to manually input product data like tags, attributes, titles, or descriptions for their e-commerce stores. So with our AI models and our product data enrichment platform, we can generate all this product data in seconds, cutting down hours of manual work. And for all of these, we only need one product image. I'm personally very excited about artificial intelligence and the wave that is happening now, and also about how much changes it will bring across all industries, which is something that we will discuss with our guests today. So I would first like to welcome Anne-Christine Polet, which has an amazing experience in both fashion and technology. So Anne-Christine, but please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Svetlana. Thanks for having me. I've been in fashion and technology my whole life. I like to say it's a love affair with both. Both as a fashion executive at large fashion brands, as well as startup life in fashion tech. I'm the founder of a company called Stitch, which has been recently acquired by a fashion tech company, Fashion Cloud.
Yeah, great, thank you. You must have had an awesome journey there, but yeah, let's hear about it a bit later. Then let me move to the next guest. I would like to welcome Bianca. She's also a CEO and founder, like myself, of one amazing fashion tech startup. So Bianca, please go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Thanks so much for having me, Svetlana. So hi, everyone. I'm Bianca, the founder and CEO of Wearing. Wearing is, as many of you might know, the viral Clueless wardrobe app that lets you digitize your wardrobe so that you can see and style what you already own. I'm very much on a mission to sort of upend the buy, use, dispose model and use AI to help us make the most of what we already have. So basically democratizing access to personal styling and helping us keep clothes in use for longer and better. Since our launch in sort of Jan 2022, we've grown our user base to over 4 million users. We've raised, 2.5 million pre-seed round, been on applications like Dragon's Den on the BBC. We've been featured in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar. But previous to that, I spent the first sort of 4.5 years of my career in banking, first at Barclays and then at Goldman Sachs in their consumer division in London, where I was super lucky to work with some of the biggest family offices in Europe, most of which had huge fashion tech holdings like Kering, LVMH, and worked on 2 big fashion tech IPOs at the time, Stitch Fix and Farfetch. And so I suppose, pertinent to sort of this webinar, that gave me a lot of insight into how to first and foremost build a really sticky customer experience, but also the huge need for actual wardrobe composition and utilization data throughout the retail landscape. So what I mean by that is really, what are people actually wearing? What do they own? What is their style persona? What are they doing with the pieces that they're buying from retailers? And obviously, these are 2 worlds that I'm sure we'll cover later, but it's really the vast potential of what AI can do to revolutionize both in equal measure.
Yeah, well, great. Thank you, Bianca. It's so exciting to see the impact you're making on millions of users with AI and technology. Packed together is such a nice fashion app. So yeah, great. Nice to have you both here. And before going into a discussion, I would really like to start first on the topic of AI. And I would, yeah, with my background in AI, I thought it's really good for me to briefly explain to our audience what is AI. So when you look at artificial intelligence, it's like giving brains to machines. So just as us humans, we use our brains to think, learn, and solve problems, artificial intelligence enables machines to do similar things. Like, for example, to understand the language when we talk, to recognize objects in the images, to make decisions on their own, and also to continuously learn from experience. So AI is like teaching a computer to think and act like a human, but in its own unique way. And artificial intelligence, there's a big hype around it, but it's really also all around us. So it can be found in everyday things like, for example, your voice assistant on your phone, like Siri. It's also like in the recommendation systems on streaming platforms like Spotify, for example. AI is in self-driving cars. We've been hearing a lot around that, and even in some advanced medical diagnosis. So it's a broad field with many applications, and all of these applications are aimed at making machines smarter and more capable of helping us in different and various tasks. But what I would like to really stress out is that artificial intelligence is a huge topic and also an umbrella term for multiple subfields. And some of them including machine learning, deep learning, robotics, natural language processing, computer vision, and of course the big hype around generative AI. So I would like to really explain a bit by a few of them. And I will start with machine learning as the broadest term among them. So machine learning is a subfield of artificial intelligence, and it's basically teaching a computer to learn from examples and make decisions or predictions based on that learning. And it's also an umbrella term for other multiple subfields. I will mention first natural language processing as a subfield of both AI and machine learning. And natural language processing is just like teaching the computers to understand and talk like we humans do. It's also helping NLP, helping computers to understand what we say and write. For example, if you tell a computer, I want to buy a red t-shirt, like an AI natural language processing model, it will help you understand that you would like to purchase a red color shirt. So it's all about making computers smart about language. On the other hand, computer vision, which I mentioned, which is also my background, is also a subfield of machine learning. And unlike natural language processing that deals with text and language, computer vision deals with images and videos. So in a fancy way, what we can say is that computer vision gives eyes to computers. so that they can see and understand the world around them, just like we humans do. For example, if it's like when you just look at a picture and can immediately recognize what objects are in that picture, if there are people or what kind of scene is in the picture, we train a computer vision model to just do the same. I will here mention as an example Pixyle.ai. For example, we have built a computer vision system that can recognize fashion items in images just like humans do. It can tell you if there's a dress in the image, also what color is that dress, is it long or short, what is its style, is it casual or elegant, and so on. So, for example, if you look at me now, if I take a selfie or a photo of myself and I put it on our demo, our AI will tell us that I'm wearing a black blouse, that it has a round neck, that it has long sleeves, that it's plain, and that I'm also wearing glasses. So it can also recognize accessories and jewelry.
As long-standing partners, I can testify how good it is from lived experience, and so can 4 million users on Wearing's side.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Bianca. That really means a lot. But yeah, you can all try it on our demo later on. We made it public. So this is about computer vision, and then two other topics that I want to mention is deep learning. I think it's really good for everyone to understand deep learning, because it's everything that we see now is basically using neural networks with many layers, and that's why we call them deep. And deep learning is basically mimicking the human brain. It has nodes and connections, just like the neurons and the synapses we have in our brain. So these deep neural networks are particularly powerful to learn complex patterns in large amounts of data. And then the next subfield of artificial intelligence that I want to talk about is generative AI. So we have been hearing a lot about generative AI and in the past years, generative AI basically is a subfield of machine learning as well, and it also uses deep learning. So when you look at generative AI, it's just like having a creative assistant for humans, because it can help us create and generate new things, such as images, music, or text, based on a lot of images, music, and text it has learned from existing examples. So it can take as a prompt a text or an image, and then it can generate a completely new media. So, and the hype around generative AI is rightfully so, because it is amazing. And it's working so well. It can produce amazing images and videos by just taking instruction as prompts from us. And yeah, I'm in awe with how far AI has come with generative AI. And then the last subfield that I want to touch upon is the large language models, which are also a subset of generative AI. So when you look at the generative AI as an umbrella term, it can generate videos, music, also images, but the large language models are generative AI, which are mostly focused on language and text. So they are like super smart writing assistants for humans. They can understand and generate human-like text by learning from huge amounts of written material. And I think we have all tested ChatGPT, which is by itself a large language model trained basically on the whole internet data. Data like books, web text, Wikipedia articles, and so on. And it has a huge amount of knowledge captured within. So this was like a high overview of artificial intelligence and the most important topics that we hear around us now. Before I go into my second point about the current state of AI and available tools we have for fashion, I would like to pose the first question to Anne-Christine. Anne-Christine, drawing from your extensive experience in digital fashion and your role as a founder of Stitch, could you quickly shed light on how brands can effectively integrate AI into their strategies?
Yes, of course. And I have to say, Svetlana, thank you for giving that overview on the landscape, because it's so nice to be able to understand, what are the umbrella kind of concepts and what are subfields and everything. How does everything fall? So thank you for that. It puts a lot of things into good perspective. I wanted to, when I think of artificial intelligence and I think of fashion, my experience really comes from the fashion value chain, and it's all the way from design to how it gets sold to a consumer, be it in store, on e-com. And first of all, I just see so many opportunities where the technology can play a really, really big role. In reality, fashion hasn't changed drastically the last decades. And it's, I think, one of the last industries that hasn't been revolutionized by technology yet. And that also means that in the industry itself, there's a lot of practices that just stem from very different times. And I just keep coming back to two really big opportunities that I think fashion brands have in front of them. Is they can start to leverage technology like this to eliminate guesswork in the process. There's a lot of guesswork that's happening. And there's a reason why fashion has an imbalance between supply and demand, which is causing a lot of problems for not just the brands, but also for the planet. And this is my daughter, who is also now live on screen.
So sweet.
I locked the door, but she found a different route.
Oh, so sweet.
And so aside from guesswork, I think the other really big thing is manual work in the fashion value chain, and be it in the creation garments or be it in an online store. There's a lot of repetitive manual work that's involved in getting collections created, sold, and to a consumer and at your doorstep. And a lot of that manual work could really be eliminated. But in order to take advantage of this, brands really have to understand, what is the technology? So, talking to you, Svetlana, having conversations with people that really understand the landscape, that really understand the technology, that can advise brands on how to best leverage it, but also where to take care. I think that's a really big part is definitely education. Sorry, it was not expected to have a second guest here on my screen today.
I think it made the webinar so much cuter.
So education is one, but another thing that brands really have to think about is mindsets and how are you going to form a culture, because some of these technologies don't really exist yet. And what really is kind of distinguishes fashion is that in fashion you want certainty, and fashion brands like to have control, because a lot of the times it's about how it looks and what the end result is, so be it what a garment looks like or what the cover of Vogue looks like. And I understand that there needs to be a level of control, but sometimes when you're working with really new technologies, you also have to be able to let go a little bit, and you also have to be able to experiment. And that sometimes brings a lot of friction, because how can you experiment if you want to have a perfectly, pixel perfect end result coming through? So I would say for a lot of brands out there, how can you build frameworks that you can give freedom to teams to experiment, but they can't go too far. They can't, leak data or do anything that you wouldn't want the press or whoever to know, or your competitors. But do try to give people freedom and to try to test and to learn. And that requires, coming back to my first point, also education. You need to understand it. And that goes from top, everyone that sits in the C-suite to, I think everyone today. You need to understand what's coming up, what does this technology mean, and how can I use it safely in order to make my business or my life better.
Yeah. That's a great overview. Yeah, Bianca, if you want to add something.
Yeah, just to jump in, I absolutely love what you said, and I think specifically a lot of C-suite executives that we talk to very regularly are thinking about how competitive their tech stack is vis-a-vis competition, how to drive loyalty, how to rethink innovation departments that, as you say, have been stagnating for so long, or doing very specific things with that budget. And as we know, the customer journey, the customer experience has evolved so much since then. And I think when we look at Gen Z shoppers, we need to reimagine the whole kind of end-to-end experience for these guys and gals. And so I think there's so much to be done there in terms of, as you say, almost like testing and learning across different points of the value chain, across different points of the customer experience. And obviously working with startups is a great way to go. But yeah, you're right. There is definitely a dichotomy between control and wanting to do better to be more competitive from a investor perspective and sort of market perspective.
Yeah. Well, great overview. Thank you both. And I completely agree. So basically, in order to start, you have to have an open mindset, first of all, right? To adapt and learn and not expect that things will be perfect from the beginning, and just, expect that in time, like all this guesswork that you're doing and the efficiency that is lacking within the fashion industry as a whole can be improved with the help of AI. So let me now go to the second question, and I want to point this to Bianca. So Bianca, can you tell us from your experience what are the current challenges faced by fashion companies like Wearing and their impact on success? Also, how does AI fits into this picture, particularly concerning user understanding and data strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, I'll sort of touch on what AC said, if I can call her AC. We're on nickname basis. I really love, her perspective about rethinking how we're setting up, retailers or platforms for success and what they're doing to sort of embed innovation, very, very sort of prominently throughout, as I said, either operations, becoming smarter in the way that they use and understand their data, right? We've all, heard about in-store not speaking to online sales and all of that stuff, but also really thinking about the sort of customer experience. And I think for me, some of the things that can be done that will have huge success potential here are really around rethinking how we can look at basically bringing in really cool solutions, some offered by startups, some of stuff can be done in-house from the get-go. And I think investing in really good AI teams is a really important thing to start to think about now when we look at budgets and, as I said, technical teams, if you're thinking sort of ahead and where this landscape's going to go, and again, looking at competition. But for me, when we think about making better purchasing decisions, there's so many exciting projects available that retailers can start to think about and tap into, whether it's virtual try-on, whether it's better product imagery, with on-model photography, with tagging like Pixyle. We can do today all kinds of different simulations on body types to make things really relevant for consumers. I mean, that's one of the biggest pain points that I feel when I'm browsing and shopping online, whether secondhand or not, is I want to see things that fit my body type, my style, my persona, that kind of stuff. And there's so many advances there that can be made. And then I think when we think about what Anne-Marie was saying before about, trend-driven design, how can we produce less? How can we combat these, really fast trend cycles and multitudes of styles being produced, billions of clothes being produced literally every year? There's so much that AI can do there to help make it more predictive, demand-based, again, more relevant to the end consumer. And again, there's so many things that can be done to really show you and curate a collection of things that we know the user kind of wants. So there's so many solutions here. There's also a lot that can be done in the gamification realm. We know Zalando's doing a lot of great stuff in terms of customer service, AI chatbots. It's really an infinite sort of bag of surprises that can be opened, I think, as and when kind of retailers are really ready to rethink, I think, the way that they prioritize including technology versus merchandising and other kind of optimizations of the value chain, and we'll see great results for consumers.
Yeah, well, that's a great point of view, Bianca. And really like your what you're saying is that AI can help, with the end consumers and helping them with, with making the right decision, but also businesses with trends prediction and forecasting. But I really love what you said also about how AI can be used for good, because we'll be hearing a lot about this story like AI coming is doomsday, but AI can be good, like used for good to reduce production, to help in the whole sustainable value chain for fashion. So I really love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, we also have to rethink down what AI is, right? Either we're talking about, the stuff that you mentioned before, which are, the big bad wolf, and there's so many kind of, issues, I think, and concerns around that, but also a lot of power. But there's also really simple applications. As I mentioned before, custom SEO optimization, advertising. There's so much that can be done at a granular level. And I think once we learn to sort of figure out what the low-hanging fruits are and integrate that into operations and the way we do business, that opens up much more kind of appetite to invest in the larger AI projects that will take longer and will have obviously more tweaking and potentially concerns to kind of quell as retailers grapple with that and better understand their consumers and build out these models in the most ethical of ways.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point of view. So yeah, and I really like that you touched upon few applications, because this is exactly what I want to do next from my point of view. Before I go into and I pose multiple questions, I would like to share briefly with the audience about the current state of AI implemented in real tools across the fashion industry specifically. So I will start with computer vision as a subfield and those applications first. So we see companies across the industries using AI and computer vision to generate images of different models, for example, wearing the same garment. And this also touched a bit the topic that Bianca mentioned about making fashion more ethical. So it can greatly help in diversifying the models that wear the fashion items. So it can be the same dress worn on multiple body types. And this helps without the need of extra photo shoots. AI can generate these extra models. Another application, and of course, I mentioned Pixyle.ai. It's also about computer vision. So it can recognize fashion items and clothing and apparel, accessories, bags, or shoes, anything fashion related in the images, and generate detailed tags or attributes like the color, the pattern, the neckline type, and all of this is saving valuable time for e-commerce teams that currently need to manually input this data. And we mentioned generative AI and also the hype around that. So there's also very nice examples in the fashion industry with generative AI being implemented. For example, also Bianca mentioned the virtual try-on. So you give the AI an image of a dress of some online store, and also you give an image from yourself. And then you can see yourself wearing it without putting the effort on putting it all physically. So this is a great example helping with customer experience. Or for example, when editing images, generative AI can currently help these designers and the photo shoot teams, like with textual prompts to generate, for example, the background. If you're selling, a dress, summer dress, you can just send the prompt and say, add a tropical island background, and then you will get the images edited in seconds. So this is greatly helping with efficiency in different teams. And besides images, I've been talking about images. I think like AI can also have a huge impact in generating product videos in no time. And all these videos can be used by marketing teams in the fashion industry across multiple channels. And I also would like to mention like another interesting wave we are seeing in the fashion industry currently by using a large language model as shopping assistants. For example, Mango launched Lisa, which is its own conversational generative AI platform. Zalando, also Bianca mentioned, they launched an AI-powered assistant that helps them navigate shoppers towards what to buy. And recently, L'Oreal also launched their AI called Beauty Genius, which is a virtual personal beauty advisor, a fully personalized AI engine, and that can you can talk with, and it can give you an individual in-depth diagnosis of what you can use. So, and when you look at all these examples, I think they're changing the wave of how consumers will interact with the brands. But also, this is consumer facing. There's a lot of use that businesses can make out of AI and large language models to make them become more efficient in their day-to-day job. For example, at Pixyle, we use large language models to generate titles and descriptions in just seconds with with artificial intelligence, saving e-commerce teams and copywriters teams hours of manual work having to generate these titles and description, also in multiple languages or in different tone of voice if there are multiple brands within one groupation. So all of these AI applications are already making a wave in the fashion industry, and this is what I believe. This is just the starting point. We are yet to see much more tools, much more applications of AI being implemented and solving either efficiency or like the guesswork, like Anne-Christine mentioned, or consumer-facing experiences with artificial intelligence. So I would like to now address our guests again. So I will go to Anne-Christine. So at Stitch, you have worked with a lot of brands. Where do you see the exciting future opportunities for AI within fashion teams?
So first of all, I agree with what you guys also both say, is that there's a lot of stuff already happening in the consumer space. So be it in advertising, be it from a consumer data perspective, in marketing and customer service, there's a lot available already. Personally, where my passion sits is really what goes below the hood. So what happens in the supply chain. Because the moment that the collection kind of leaves the supply chain and you come into the consumer realm, it's like, whoa, it's modern all of a sudden. We kind of know what we're doing, and we know how this online thing works and how the socials work, and yeah, we've got that down. But when you actually go into the space of how collections get created and manufactured, and I think you would be surprised that for an industry that is so focused on its aesthetics and how it shows up, that a lot of how collections get created is almost tied together with duct tape and like string, and it takes a lot of effort to have collections come to life. And there's a lot of back and forths that happen, and there's also really big parts of stuff that gets designed that doesn't even hit the shop floor ever. So it's kind of like a hope and a thought is, I think we need technology to make a difference there. I mean, the same reason that cars don't get created by hand anymore with hand sketches and God knows what. Like, why don't we have all our garments created in 3D and done in such a good way that you could even extract the pattern from it automatically, ready to cut and sew with as less fabric wastage as possible. And imagine that if you could even then use that asset and have it rendered out perfectly so it looks not different than a photograph, and even indeed create videos of it, use digital models. If you make all of that work together, that could literally revolutionize fashion, and it could really solve a lot of problems. Because I think a big reason why there's such an imbalance between supply and demand, why do brands create so much stuff that we don't even need, is because the chain is so long. It takes so long for them to get everything produced. So at some point, they just don't have the data. It's literally guessing and saying, well, maybe I'll add 10% on top just to be sure. And then you've got excess inventory sitting everywhere. So if we could just make that whole chain faster and less wasteful, that we can at least start to predict what consumers would actually want to buy. Or better yet, why don't you design it digitally and test it with consumers to see if this would actually work, and create assets for it, and then maybe just manufacture on demand. So, what I'm saying is that we shouldn't use the technology to create more stuff, because we actually have more than enough. We actually have too much. It's rather, how can we use this technology to just make that fashion value chain look a lot cleaner and more efficient and much less wasteful.
Yeah, well, that's a great point of view, AC. So basically, what you're saying is that the fashion industry is still very traditional, right? That there are so many opportunities where it can be optimized, it can become more efficient, and also like I really love your point about reducing waste and how items are being created. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and I have to say, in a space where it becomes as easy as typing something in a text box and you can generate the most beautiful images and videos, it's kind of crazy that, a fashion collection would get created in a 2D sketch.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about beautiful hand sketches like designers might do in the luxury space. I'm talking about Adobe Illustrator, 2D. You have no idea of proportions. You have no idea of silhouettes. This is crazy. So there's such a distance between what technology can actually allow you to do already as just, a person on the internet versus how the brands are operating. And that chasm needs to close, I think, for the industry to start working better as well.
That's exactly true. So basically, what you're saying that there's so much technology out there, but basically the adoption of it is still lacking within the teams who have been doing things for years now, and then there is a very fast movement of technology, but not such a fast movement in how things are being done. So. Great overview of that. And maybe I can also tune in Bianca now with her experience because she's using AI into a wardrobe and styling apps. Like what effects that does the integration of AI has there? And of course, additionally beyond your app, like what strategies can the different fashion tech apps employ to tackle these challenges, and how does this impact the broader fashion ecosystem?
Yeah, I love that question, Svetlana. I focus on it a lot in my pitch deck when we're raising. But yeah, I think the integration of AI through kind of AI wardrobe styling apps definitely does have a big and broader kind of impact on the industry. And I think that the first thing that comes to mind for me is really all about data and the creation of like these really powerful models that at scale can really revolutionize how both retailers interact and understand their consumers, but also how these apps get to know their consumers, better than the consumers kind of know themselves in terms of their style, in terms of their wardrobe gaps, in terms of how they can reuse and kind of creatively make the most of what they own, what they need to repair. All of that stuff can kind of be done. So I think to sort of break down the answer, I'll start from like a product point of view. So for me, the wardrobe and styling apps will basically finally be able to do what their clients want, right? I think the tech is finally there. We've seen so many advances in AI capabilities to basically bring to fruition a real stylist in your pocket, right? You mentioned Mango, we mentioned Zalando. A lot of retailers are also trying to do this themselves. But I think, the upshot that wardrobe apps have is that obviously they have the whole data story, right? They have the full picture of who you are, what you're using, how you're using it, etc. And so I think for me, that's going to be really exciting from a consumer perspective and a sort of paradigm shift in the industry because, we'll basically see the iconic Clueless movie come to life from 1995 until today, which was previously not really possible. Obviously that, has really been helped by sort of the AI tagging of images as, Pixyle does, but also just understanding and building deep relationships between a user's wardrobe and their style persona. So what I mean by that is really profiling users at scale so that we can start to cluster and understand basically how different style personas behave, what they need. And I think that will expand the market, significantly and hopefully, lead to the sort of ubiquity of one or two of the sort of biggest players. I know we're definitely in the race, but for sure, I think there'll be a lot more in different geographies who understand localization and how important that is for different users and their needs. I think from a company perspective, I think we'll definitely see a lot of social media takes on the digital wardrobe and sort of trying to build, the Spotify of fashion. Again, I think what's really important here is sort of eyeballs and data as the real value that these wardrobe apps are creating, and obviously the one that can scale the fastest with AI, the data points, and sort of virality from a social perspective will definitely be the sort of winner takes all. And then my favorite point is really around the landscape, as you kind of asked, and what that means for the future of fashion. And I think here we'll definitely be able to see output in terms of the ability of these companies to productize their data and create these sort of AI-driven capabilities in terms of styling that retailers will be able to tap into and basically use to bring this personalization styling experience to a really granular and a really relevant level to every consumer that kind of shops on their website or interacts with the brand. I think there'll be a lot of loyalty plays, a lot of gamification plays, as I mentioned before. And I think for me, it just basically is the first step in terms of, using AI and data on what people have and own to bring about ultra personalized e-commerce, which, we started with ASOS and we've been waiting for this for a really long time. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. Well, that's a great overview, Bianca, and I really love that you mentioned the Clueless app. This is a movie that we saw in the 90s, and I think this is what is happening now. Like, everything that we have seen in the movies and before it was fiction, slowly.
Now it's reality.
Now it's slowly becoming reality, and that's for the Clueless app that you did. But also for a lot of things that we saw, like humans interacting with the computers in a very natural way. It's the reality now, and it's coming our way. So I'm really excited to see what's next to come. But it's moving super fast.
For sure. I actually even saw a comment in the comment section now around, what people don't see is sometimes unbelievable from Ricardo Martins. And I think that's a really insightful comment because really, as AC said before, there is so much that's possible. And I think as consumers and retailers start to believe it and we start to trial, these different service offerings, I think we'll be able to literally visualize the next step in the journey. And I think therefore, lead to sort of mass adoption of it. Because I think right now, as she said, the chasm between the sort of old world, almost 20th century sort of take on shopping and the wardrobe in my case, and what we can do in sort of a futuristic sort of gamified, 3D, play, it seems so far apart, but actually I think we're so close in many ways.
Yeah, that's correct. That's exactly right. And what I want to add, maybe now continuing the third topic that I wanted to share with the audience, and it's it's that AI is all about data. What you mentioned, like we have so much amounts of data that are out there for which AI is hungry for, and this is if I make an analogy with the real world, just to make it very simple for the audience, if you look at data, it can be considered as the food for artificial intelligence. So the data in a way serves as a raw material or the fuel for the AI models, similar to the food for us and for the living organisms. And then once we have the data, next comes the algorithms, which you can see as the recipes. So the algorithms are like the recipes that dictate how this data is processed and transformed into useful insights or predictions. And then a very large impact of where AI is today is also the computational resources that we have from companies like NVIDIA, like the high-performing GPUs. And all these, the chips and the processors, you can see that they act as the stomach, like the processing unit that digests the data through the algorithms or the recipes. And the end results of all this process is the AI models as the brain. So the AI models are kind of produced to be similar to the brains, where all the learning, reasoning, and decision making is taking place. So, and I would again like to mention that all the advancements that we have in AI now, they are possible because of the huge amounts of data available now, and also with the faster processing machine. So, for example, if you look at the ChatGPT, as I mentioned before, it has basically been learned on over all the internet data that is out there, Wikipedia articles, in any way, blog posts, and all overall, it has been calculated that in ChatGPT, there has been over 300 billion words fed in order to learn what it knows now. And all of this was made possible with over 10,000 NVIDIA GPUs. So, both the data and the computational resources we have now really help to get AI to the level that we have. I would also like to touch upon a question we often hear from our clients, and this is about the worry and about the data being reused to training the AI models, and what if the data get leaked. So this question, I think everyone in the audience working in fashion and considering to work with an AI vendor or AI tool, this is a question that you should always ask. You need to make sure that the data that you send that is stored properly and privately, and it doesn't leak anywhere. But what I recommend next to this is to allow your AI vendor to use your data to train and improve the AI models that you use. Because in time, if they retrain the AI models with your data, it will start working better and it will start becoming optimized for your use case and from your own examples. And this is something that we do for our clients as well. So from the images they send us, we use them to retrain, and then the results for them, they get better and better. And the worry that, let's say, some of our clients have when we talk with a lot of people is like, okay, but you're using my data to train your AI, then other companies or my competitors might be using it. And what I want to stress out here is that although the AI model is trained on all of the data, basically the only thing that was influenced with your data is the inside parameters, which are just numbers in a complex AI model. Nobody else will see your images or text or video on which it was trained. And giving data away is inevitable. It's like restricting Google to learn from your search queries. It goes in a centralized way. And like when you look at OpenAI, although they haven't said it publicly, but it's basically learned, it learned what it knows on all the internet data. That's including also your e-commerce images and so on. So the moment it becomes public, it's basically in the hands of the AI giants. Okay, so this is a very sensitive topic, and that's why I wanted to touch upon, so that our audience can also think about the data and make the right decisions when they start working with AI partners and tools. And now I would like to pose another question back to Anne-Christine. How can maybe Anne-Christine, you can quickly share your light upon how can brands strike a balance between traditional methods and new AI-driven innovations? And also, what advice from your perspective would you offer to fashion brands embarking on their digital transformation journey?
Yeah, while you were speaking, I just realized that I think the biggest thing that you have to do is educate yourself. And it's like broken record right now, but you have to learn as a company, you have to learn to distinguish what is fad and what is real, what is going to make an impact, and what is just something that just sat on the headlines. Or is this a real AI company, or is this company just using, an API from one of the AI giants? So those things you only know if you really educate yourself. But the other thought that came to my mind is AI is not a silver bullet. And I've seen so many different technologies go on, the whole hype train in fashion, metaverse, Web3, there's always a new hype that's going on. And it's touted as, this will solve it all. But in reality, it's actually not about the technology. It's about what problems are you looking to solve. And the technology is just a solution that you use to do it. So in the end, it's really making sure that you choose which problems you want to work on, and then doing that in the right way. And I think if we can just shift that focus in fashion a little bit away from just the technology and saying things like, I need to have something with AI. Well, maybe you don't, but maybe also you do. It depends on the problem you're looking to solve. So think of the problem, think of where as a business you want to go, what is the strategy, how are you going to do it, and then look for the right technology. And if you are looking for one of the more innovative pieces of software, the technologies that are out there, I would think really carefully if it fits also in your organization. If you are an organization that likes to work in 5-year plans and the technology landscape is, set out for the next 3 years and everyone knows what they have to do in a big project management and program management setup, then don't go for really innovative software that maybe needs some trial and iteration and, where teams might not have everything thought out yet. But if you are a company that says, yes, we have a sandbox or we have a space where we can test and learn, then go for it and try it out. But realize that if you are doing that, you need expertise as well in-house. You need to have, and Bianca said it as well, technology teams that understand AI. And in order to hire those teams, but maybe most importantly, in order to keep those teams, you also need to build a culture that is kind to digital minds and digital brains, because coming from technology and moving into fashion, it's not always apples and apples. So if brands are serious about wanting to stay ahead of the curve and really leveraging what technology can do today for their business and to solve some of the problems and achieve the goals that they have, you really also need to consider, what is the talent that I need for that and how am I going to keep them? Do I have a culture in which people will actually be able to thrive? And then if you do it that way, I think that at least gives you some of the foundation to be able to succeed. And just please don't, if you're implementing an ERP, yes, please do a very thorough planning and take all the time you need. But if you're looking at testing things quickly, give teams the space to start small and iterate from there, because I think you just need different approaches to different kinds of technology solutions that you're onboarding at that point in time. So that's that I would give to brands that are looking at these kind of technologies today.
Yeah, well, that's a great advice, AC. So basically, it's like you need to prepare well. You need to make sure that you have the right team, you have the right culture, and the right mindset. And also, like, I really like your point of view of starting small and then growing, because of course you cannot do everything at once. Um, yeah. Okay. So I think we have all 8 minutes left from the webinar, and I saw the first question coming in the chat. Let's answer that. And in the meanwhile, if anybody has another question, please pose it, and we'll try to answer it in the next couple of minutes. So the first question that I'm seeing now is from Sukashish. How do you perceive the potential impact of generative AI on 3D virtual fashion designing? Okay, so I think like maybe this is the question that I will point to Christine, because with Stitch in 3D you have the vast experience, and then I will add quickly my thoughts on this.
Yeah, and please do. I think that AI could have, especially generative AI, a huge impact on the 3D or the DPC, digital product creation landscape. I think recently in the last year and a half, we've seen brands slow down in the DPC space. It's gotten deprioritized. A number of reasons for that is that DPC takes time. It doesn't necessarily have an immediate ROI, and that's because teams need to be trained and onboarded. That doesn't happen overnight. You also need to have certain technology in place. For example, if you need to render things out, you want to do that well, and it needs to look very good. So you need certain expertise to help you with that. And thirdly, it's quite costly. So rendering is a lot of computational power, and 3D licenses are also not cheap. Now, generative AI is not going to solve a cost thing, the license cost immediately. But what generative AI could solve is potentially that big hurdle to onboarding teams in designing 3D. And some of the hurdles are understanding the software. So the software is very complex. What could like Adobe Firefly, could we just have a little text box that says, can I go from long sleeve to short sleeve? Press a button and the software does the work for me. I think that's one of the areas where the software could play a big role for DPC. And I think the next one is, how can I then make sure that it's actually manufacturable? You really need pattern making and traditional skills in order to really do 3D very well. And not everyone is a trained pattern maker. And if you could take away that hurdle, so if the system could learn from patterns what is manufacturable, what is not manufacturable, so that the designers could focus on designing, but your software could actually tell you if it's manufacturable, yes or no. And if so, just extract a pattern for you straight away that you can share with your manufacturer. Those are just two examples of some hurdles that I've seen with brands, that if those could be solved, the onboarding will go so much faster. Teams would be able to adopt it much, much quicker. And I think we would definitely see huge impacts. But for that to happen, that we need the 3D suppliers to be able to continue to invest. And they can continue to invest if they get funded. And they can get funded if they have revenue, and the revenue comes from brands. So we do need brands to continue to invest in the digital space in order to keep everything alive. But we also need investors to keep on investing in fashion tech, because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that is just waiting to be revolutionized. So we can only make these amazing solutions if we have the money to be able to do so.
Amen, AC. Amen.
Yeah, that's so right. And to add my perspective to the question, I believe, like as you said, AC, it takes a long time until make all the details perfect on a 3D design. So what I see is like how generative AI can help is that you can just put your ideas out there quickly with a prompt. You can say that make the sleeve shorter, or add the flower pattern, or add a color. So you can quickly kind of iterate, and what's in your mind as a designer, you can put it out there with generative AI. And then once you get to the design you like, then you go into the details, and then you craft the 3D. So this is my point of view, how I think it can help.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have 3 more minutes. I think I would like to wrap up, because we are running out of time for questions. I want to thank everyone for joining our webinar today. I really hope you enjoyed the content and you found it educational. Please send us an emoji in the chat just to quickly understand your sentiment of our webinar. Did you like it? Or anything that you want to share, it would be super helpful. And of course, if any of you would like to chat with me or Bianca or Christine after the event, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn and send us a message, and we'll be happy to talk with any of you. And of course, if you would like to test some magic of AI, go to the tools that I've mentioned before. Also go to Pixyle's real life demo, and then you can see how it works by uploading few images. So I would like to wrap up now. Bianca, maybe you want to get the final comments?
Yes, just to say a big thank you to both of you, and obviously Pixyle for organizing this. It's been incredibly insightful. I'm so glad to get the participation from the audience. I can see a lot of people are really passionate about this topic. Again, if anyone wants to try wearing, you can download us on iOS and Android. Big things coming for us in the next couple of months. So hopefully there will be on-demand styling that is fully generative AI very soon. We've certainly got the training data set for that now. So yeah, thank you so much, ladies, for your time. It was a really great session.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Bianca. We really appreciate your point of view and sharing it with everyone. AC, maybe you want to add some final words before we wrap up?
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to Bianca, because you guys are hitting 4 million users this week, and that is insane. So big congrats for that. And Svetlana, thank you. Please continue educating us on everything AI and what it can mean for fashion. I think there's such a lack of fashion-focused content around artificial intelligence and all its substreams. And I think it's really needed. It's really needed for everyone to understand how it can impact an industry as large as fashion is. So please continue to do so.
Yeah, we'll keep it. For me, the biggest challenge is all the technical knowledge. How do we put it super simple out there? And I hope I managed to do so and not to sound too complicated. But
Most definitely.
yeah. It was great having you both, and I'm really excited that we did this. I hope I will have you on some other next webinar, maybe around another topic. And thanks again to everyone in the audience joining. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.